So in the sagittal plane for the running gait analysis, there are several metrics that we will look at in regards to the biomechanics. So let's go ahead and we'll pause the video. I actually prefer it when the individual has kind of drifted back. That way you can get all the angles that you need without any interference from the actual treadmill itself. So again, the software that we're using is the Yogger app, but any app, Dartfish, where you can draw in the angles will do. In this case, we're going to start with the different phases of gait, right? So we have initial contact, mid, stance, and then swing. We're going to start with the initial contact. So I'll toggle through until I get to that initial frame. And so the initial things that we're going to look at here first is going to be the stride. So obviously he's doing, there's a heel strike here. You can get a sense as to how far in front of the center of mass someone's hitting, especially if you have a known set line, then that will allow you to measure the specific distance. But really, it's a matter of looking at the initial contact, heel strike, and how far out in front they're hitting. Uh, for the purposes of this video, we won't measure the distance of heel strike, but notice that it is indeed a heel strike. The things that we're going to measure in this sagittal plane are going to be at this time point are going to be threefold. So we want to be able to measure the joint excursion that happens during the land here. So the three angles, we'll hit on our little angle. We're in the sagittal plane. We're going to look at knee flexion on, we're looking at the left leg. We're looking at knee flexion, left leg, and then the amount of dorsiflexion and plantar flexion on the left leg. I tend to like to use the shin angle in certain instances. In this one, we're going to try the dorsiflexion, plantar flexion, see if that works for us. So we're going to hit go. You can see that immediately it's taken into account those three angles and measured it. You can see why the foot angle, I don't really appreciate the plantar flexion and dorsiflexion there, where it has the individual in approximately 20 degrees. So uh, in this case, I'm going to try the shin angle, hit go. Again, that's still slightly off. So in this case, I'll probably just draw that angle in. So I'm going to take that off, hit go, and then from the option here, I'm just going to use the 3 points of contact, or 3 points of the angle. So one's going to be kind of right at the bottom of the malleoli, and then right at the foot. And I would say that the individual is somewhat dorsiflexed. So it'd be like that. Again, you can zoom in if you so choose to get a more accurate measurement. And then that has the angle written in there, which is a little bit more difficult to see, just given the white of the shoe. But that's looks to be at 95.4 degrees at initial contact. And then I'll just hit my screenshot to capture that and save it. And that's the angles that would be measured in at the initial contact. For mid stance, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to clear this out. Go back to here, undo each of those. Great. And then we're going to change this to look at mid stance and make sure that those angles are still within the relative joint centers. I would say that they are, which is great. And then here we may be able to be more precise with the shin angle. Let's take a look at that. Again, it's kind of picking up the edge of the treadmill rather than the angle that we would so choose. So, just out of curiosity, I think that's actually a better angle. Yeah, so I'd say that's about potentially 20 degrees of dorsiflexion, and you can notice that it's, yes, the what it doesn't, the trace doesn't follow the white of the shoe. And that's understandable because there's more of a heel toe drop there. But I would feel relatively comfortable with that. Again, feel free to zoom in, measure your own angle. If you were to do that, if you were to measure your own angle, once again, you'd use that angle app or angle functionality and feature. Yeah, I got 69. And so, again, appreciate that there is human error within this, but for the technology currently available for the majority of clinics, and certainly if you're going to be doing this in the field, this is probably going to be your, you're going to have to appreciate that there's going to be about a 3 to 5 degree error fluctuation. And so uh, the left ankle angle measures at 20.8. I got 68.2 when I drew that in. Again, that 68.2 has to be taken off of the 90. So it's approximately 22.8 that I got, which is not far off from the 20.8. And that would be the measurements that you would want to be most interested in at mid stance. The other one that you can look at is the trunk flexion angle at the stance. So you can do that through trunk, the anterior posterior trunk flexion. We're looking to the left, and you can see that there's slight trunk flexion. Once again, if the joint centers aren't exactly where you would perceive them to be, you can certainly draw that in yourself. And the final thing that we're going to look at from the running analysis in the sagittal plane would be the hip anterior tilt. So once again, I'm going to back off these angles. I'm going to take off that joint angle that we had put in, and then we will look at for the anterior pelvic tilt, and this is going to be at the end range of the motion. So I don't believe that the app has that option as of right now, and so we'll draw that one in. And you're going to take this at the terminal swing, which is pretty much at the end of the frame right before the foot leaves the ground. Get your angle, feature, and then I usually do it with the understanding that the individual has aligned the pants with their iliac crest. And then that one is at, looks to be 21.6. And so that would be a little bit excessive anterior pelvic tilt at the terminal stance phase. Typically, you want less than 20 degrees. And those would be the measurements for the running gait analysis in the sagittal plane.